We absolutely live in a simulation, and it is simulated by another civilization.
Is our reality manufactured by some unknown entity?
We are living in a computational world.
This man says he found a code hidden in the fabric of our reality.
There's millions of characters, they're moving all the time.
A code that may prove our world is not what we think.
It really feels like you're looking through a microscope into a whole new world that you never knew existed.
What is the true nature of the world we live in?
What is it really? I'm claiming we're about to find out.
For thousands of years, humans have asked the question, why are we here? Wondering about the origins and purpose of our existence. Countless theories have been proposed, from creation myths by all-powerful beings to more recent explanations from the fields of science. Many of the proposed explanations include the idea that our life on Earth is not the only dimension to reality. Other realms are thought to exist, everything from Valhalla to Hades and heaven. Some question whether our world is even real, theorizing that our reality is just an illusion created by the higher beings in these other dimensions. A simulation of sorts. I recently spent a couple of days with a proponent of this idea, an independent researcher named Danny Goler. And what is it that you're researching?
The connection between consciousness and matter.
Danny claims he discovered a technique to see into a different layer of reality.
I am the discoverer, or the claiming discoverer, of a unique phenomena in that it is a repeatable experiment that people can do. I'm not suggesting that people should do it, but it just happens to be the case that if you ingest DMT and you project a diffracted laser on the surface, you will see what seems to be a self-executing code of some sort in the surfaces where you project the diffracted laser. What seems to be a very digital in nature, infinite clock that runs these weird symbols in it. And it seems to be something fundamental in that it doesn't really respond to anything that people do. So it doesn't really care who you are, where you are, when you are, the conditions of your mind, the temperature in the room. Doesn't matter if you're playing music, doesn't matter if you play frequencies, doesn't matter if you even introduce magnetic fields. It's just doing what it's doing. It really feels like you're looking through a microscope into a whole new world that you never knew existed.
It's not just letters that you see. There are geometries that present themselves. It makes it easier for multiple subjects to see the same thing at the same time. So I can see that geometry and I can say to you, are you seeing this tetrahedron like in this position over here? Yes. And can you see the characters that are over here? Yes. Okay. What do we let's match these characters and make sure that we're seeing the same thing.
Danny and his business partner Carter are having others participate in the experiment to gather as much information as they can about this phenomenon.
The real game here is making sure that we're setting this up for the maximum odds that someone is going to see the content. So it will work up against like this foam sort of material in this particular Faraday cage, but the real ideal is to use something that has like a not too reflective surface, but a very matte surface. And this one seems to be set up pretty well. So we're gonna set this thing up so that we can give people the best odds of success.
I met Danny and Carter at Falcon Space, a lab in New Jersey researching alternative propulsion methods. Mark, the owner of Falcon Space, and two others were going to take part in Danny's experiment to try to see the code.
I think we're going to mount some cameras in here too, just to make sure that we're getting people seeing it for the first time appropriately. So we're going to work through some of that.
Danny and Carter were also filming for a documentary that is being made about their research, hoping to capture the reactions of people witnessing the code for the first time.
One of the things that we find a lot is that the filming of the lights itself is the least interesting part. The filming of the response I have found to be the most fun. And it's because the response is very consistent.
They refer to the characters that appear in the laser as the code of reality, thinking that what they are seeing is the source code of the simulation we live in.
We are living in a computational world. In fact, the constituents of what makes up the real world is actually computational. It's like the Matrix, but in reverse. It's the opposite of what is shown in the movie. So in the movie, we're in the Matrix, which is the computational world. It's the fake world. And we're trying to get back to the real world. In reality, the computational world is the real world. And we are in a subset from that real world that we call real, physical, but it's actually just a tiny subset in a much larger computational space, much larger operational space. But for all intents and purposes, the state that I'm occupying inside is not one of thinking that maybe, but one of absolute knowing. We absolutely live in a simulation, and it is simulated by another civilization. It's not just like random laws or something like this.
The idea that we're living in a simulation has been explored by science fiction for decades. Philosophers have speculated on this subject for thousands of years. Plato's allegory of the cave tells the story of people living in a cave since infancy. They are forced to face the cave walls. Behind them is a fire which their captors use to create shadows on the wall in front of them. Their entire lives, what they think is reality, is nothing more than shadow puppets. Zhuangzi, the ancient Chinese philosopher, had the butterfly dream. And there's the more modern brain in a vat thought experiment, very similar to the movie The Matrix. All of these questioning whether what we experience and believe is actually real. Now, simulation theory has moved beyond the pages of science fiction and philosophical thought experiments. The idea of a simulated reality is being taken seriously by many.
Someone programs a universe, and in there they gain maturity and technology, and then they program a universe. And then they program a universe. So you can have nested, simulated universes all the way down, but there's only one real universe. Now throw a dart at all those universes. Which one are you most likely to hit? A simulated universe.
Some estimates say that there is a 50-50 chance that we are in a simulation. Part of Danny's goal researching the code of reality is to find a way to prove simulation theory to be true.
Now we're actually trying to prove this scientifically. So we have a couple of physicists on board, engineers, and we're trying to think about this in more coherent terms. Is there something we can actually show, prove, so we can actually, put something on paper that makes sense even to a mainstream scientist that won't necessarily do the experiment themselves?
As Danny suggests, one of the requirements of this experiment precludes a lot of people from attempting it. That is the DMT component.
Dimethyltryptamine, which is what DMT stands for, is a neuromodulator. Your body makes it naturally. We don't exactly know what its function currently in our metabolism, but there's recent studies, for example, one by Dr. John Dean with rats. He discovered that they have comparable amounts of dimethyltryptamine in their intracranial liquid to dopamine and serotonin during waking hours. What this means, in simple terms, everybody knows what dopamine and serotonin are. You have certain amounts of those in the blood and intracranial liquid every day, and they're responsible for a big chunk of how you feel and everything. It is the same average amount of dimethyltryptamine in your intracranial liquid, or at least for rats, as dopamine and serotonin, which means it plays some fundamental role somehow in your way of experiencing the world. What it's actually doing, we don't know. It's a very simple molecule. And when you smoke it, so you add more to the system, the feeling is that you're perceiving more of what reality is. Like there's more channels open up. Like it's almost like it's responsible for perception itself. That's what it feels like. Now that's obviously speculative.
As Danny mentioned, DMT, when ingested, alters the subject's perceptions. Because of this, it is considered a hallucinogen and psychedelic drug. The United States classifies DMT as a Schedule I controlled substance. But it is the subject of several scientific studies around the world. Some indicate that it may have potential therapeutic benefits for treating anxiety and depression. DMT has been used in traditional medicines for probably thousands of years. Perhaps its most famous application is as the psychoactive ingredient in ayahuasca, a South American brew made from the ayahuasca vine and the leaves of a plant containing dimethyltryptamine. Ayahuasca is traditionally administered by curanderos and shamans during spiritual practice for healing and visioning. Many users of ayahuasca report intense mystical experiences and spiritual revelations, often accompanied by visiting other realms and even seeing entities. It's experiences similar to these that led Danny to develop his experiment. How did you come across this experiment?
It's a long story, and the short version of that is that I became very interested in the question of whether there's a way to discern whether the psychedelic space is real or not. And what I mean by real is, does it exist even when we're not looking? Like, does it have its own reality outside of our perception of it? And because my experiences with DMT were so realistic, as for many people, I decided that if the space in fact is real, there should be some way to determine that. And I started thinking about this from first principles. One of the things I realized that light must be involved somehow, because I see it with my eyes, the psychedelic space, content. The other thing that became clear is that if the space is real, and all of those obviously were under the banner of if, we don't know, but if the space is real, then it's operating by some rules. It has a geometry, it has a topology, it has some regulations by which it's functioning. And it has some entry point for us. So even if the space is infinite, sometimes we see it, sometimes we don't see it. So that means that somehow we cross a boundary of some sort sometimes. And that sent me down the path that was very long and windy. And eventually I came up with a set of ideas that became some early attempts of trying to do something with light and then with lasers. And then all of a sudden, boom, lo and behold, you project a diffracted laser and you see code. Now, to be quite honest, I've discovered this now almost 4 years ago. And so far, it's still all we know.
The lasers for the experiment I witnessed were set up in a Faraday cage.
This is a great setup for isolating interference and other electrical signals. Verify the work. It's good. Really good. I'm excited. Yeah, let's go grab this.
We're about ready to go.
Mark went first to attempt to see the code.
I don't see it.
I'm going to wait a couple minutes and I'll go back.
Okay.
The first attempt didn't seem to be a success.
What do you say to folks who either just flat out don't believe you, or the people who have tried and can't see it and then hence don't necessarily?
Yeah, don't believe. Yeah, I know you're asking the right question. Well, one of the things I always try to do up front is manage expectations, because it's very possible that when others do the protocol here with us, that they may not see the code. Like so far in the subjects that we've tested, about 1 in 10 can never see it. 6 in 10 see it the first time. And then usually another 3 in 10 on their second or third try.
Next up to try the experiment was Tom.
We look at the red one, right? We look at the red one?
The red one, I think it's not sharp enough.
Doesn't matter.
I think the green might take you through.
The green might take you through. Make sure that you're looking into the speckle, not at the surface. You don't want to be looking at the surface. So you want to be literally looking into the field that is inside. So like literally,
Okay.
It's almost like it's a window.
Okay.
And you're looking into that glistening
I
stuff.
see what you're saying.
Yeah.
All right, here we go.
I can see the depth now.
Yep. So now look into the depth. And then see if you can resolve anything of the little tiny things moving around. It's almost microscopic in the beginning.
Yeah, so small.
Yep.
They look so far. It looks like you're looking into a giant room. There's green and black dots everywhere. It looks like a giant sphere, is what I'll say. It's just like... And then as this moves, that doesn't move. It's like this. I don't know. It's like I'm looking through a window. Best I can verbiage it. All right. That was pretty cool. Not gonna lie.
The room Tom described certainly piqued my interest. But part of the technique to view the code is to diffuse your focus, similar to viewing an autostereogram like the popular Magic Eye posters from the 1990s.
Converge your attention closer. It's almost like a diffusion of your attention more than anything.
This makes me wonder if the depth or room that Tom was seeing is just an optical illusion augmented by the DMT. Danny insists it's much more. And when he entered the Faraday cage, he indeed claims he saw more than just a room.
I'm just gonna Kaf Lamed Mem Shin Ein Reish Aleph. It's all the Hebrew letters that I'm seeing kind of appearing. So there's definitely someone in there. Let's just make it clear. Someone lives in here. This is someone's home.
As I'm sure you can imagine, that last statement made me take notice, and is a topic I definitely wanted to hear more about.
One of the things that we prepare folks who are going to do the experiment for the first time for is the fact that there's a non-0% chance that an entity will appear in the light itself. And so far, in my experience, it does not appear to be intentional. It feels that it might be accidental. As in, we may be shining a light into a space where these entities may just be, and we just happen to be shining a light in, who knows what, their office or their house, or I don't even know. But when they tend to notice it, surprise isn't the right word, but interest is the right word. Like, they tend to come and they want to like look at the light and, you know, see what's going on with the light typically. But definitively, entities do occasionally appear in the frame.
At first, the claim that entities appear in the light seems fantastic. But if we are living in a simulation or some sort of multi-dimensional reality, perhaps it actually makes sense that some sort of creatures or beings would exist in this alternate space. Many users of DMT have reported seeing various entities. Famously, Terence McKenna, the late psychedelic philosopher, described seeing machine elves.
There are definitely entities on the other side. I encounter self-transforming elf machines, which are creatures, entities, perhaps, although they're not made out of matter. They're made out of, as nearly as I can figure it out, they're made out of syntax driving light.
So for a long time in the DMT space, a lot of people meet beings. That's not new or special to me. And they seem to be as real as you and I, but usually they kind of appear in slightly esoteric ways. Like sometimes there's just a presence or a feeling or an energy. Rarely you see their form. There's a lot of different species. The ones that I understand to be weaving our physical reality are insectoids. There are others, there are many others, but the insectoid seems to be responsible for our reality.
Danny says he knows this information because it was shown to him.
So one fateful day, there was just this one vision. I guess you can call it a vision, but it was just basically a simulation. They just showed me. They brought up this entire apparatus in front of me, and it was as real as you are to me. It's just enormous satellite dishes that rose between the trees and the mountains. I was living in Pasadena back then, and they had these like symbols on them, very similar to what we see in the code. And then the whole everything was stripped to the grid, and just like, and it was just grid. Basically, what I saw was a replica of the entire other side of the block, just upside down, sitting on some kind of a assembly arm. And then the whole arm, whatever it was, in this enormous thing, just rose up and just went clunk and just set on the other side of the street, and everything started reforming in zigzags from far away, closer and closer and closer to me, until like I saw cars, people, dogs appear out of nowhere. And then it just went. And then it was just silence. And I have to be honest that I actually never thought that even if I would know that we're in a simulation, it would do anything to me. Because I thought, well, who cares? Like, my experience is still real to me. You know, if you stub your toe in the middle of the night and it hurts, you don't care if somebody comes and tells you, oh, don't worry about it, that's a simulation. It's like, no, if it hurts, right? That's real to me right now. So I never thought that it would matter, but I was wrong. There was something in that moment, there's a gut punch. You do feel gutted. It's like because there is this sense of like, wait, like, am I a puppet? Like, this is kind of meaningless? Like, what is the... I later realized that it's not the case, because all they're showing you is that there's just a larger picture to the situation. If a civilization that is way more advanced than you runs you on their, computer, if you have consciousness, it's not different than being rendered by the laws of physics. Like, really, there's no difference. Like, as long as there's real experience, that's all that matters. It doesn't really matter, because it's simulations all the way up. It's just simulations on top of simulations on top of simulations. They're also simulated, so it just keeps going, right? That was that pivotal moment where I moved from thinking that it might be the case to knowing for a fact.
The possibility that we're in a simulation raises all sorts of questions. It makes me think of modern video games. Am I the player character being controlled by some other entity? Am I the non-player character, just repeating the same handful of programmed actions? Even if we aren't in a simulation, video games are a decent, if imperfect, analogy for the simulation hypothesis. And makes me think about something Danny said earlier.
I became very interested in the question of whether there's a way to discern whether the psychedelic space is real or not. Does it exist even when we're not looking?
If we are living in a simulation, this idea of something not existing when we're not looking at it could be the reason he sees the code in the laser to begin with. After all, this is how a video game would work. Video games have a limited amount of processing power to work with, and only draw assets on the screen that the player can see. If the player is inside a building, the system conserves resources by not rendering the world outside. Maybe the simulation we live in works the same way. Perhaps shining the laser onto the wall is showing source code. No one can see what's behind the wall, so our simulation doesn't need to render it. Maybe this laser beam is a glitch in the simulation or Easter egg that allows people to see the underlying code of our reality.
That you want to be looking past the lines, so you want the lines to be completely blurred out in your vision.
After some instruction from Danny, the third participant tried the experiment.
Even though it's not focused so much, it's fine?
Yeah, because it's inside the surface. The focus of the actual thing, it doesn't matter. This is super clear, like with the red. You see this like field of buckyballs, and the code is basically making up this entire thing.
After a few minutes, Jay began to see something.
I feel like there's Hebrew letters trying to come out.
There you go. Now you're
But
saying
they're everywhere. Billions of them.
Usually people describe it as either Japanese or Chinese, but it definitely has a lot of Hebrew in there.
I'm not saying definitive letters. The shapes are familiar because I know the Hebrew language. But it's not sharp at all. It's almost like my brain is telling me to see things that aren't there.
In the beginning, yeah.
So I couldn't say that this is, I'm seeing it, or is this the placebo effect?
Jay was able to see shapes in both the red and green lasers. Afterwards, he was still trying to make sense of what it was.
How do you describe it? So it's everything focuses on one point, and now this point, imagine the point is the size of the tip of a pen. But in that tip, there is hundreds of things moving, shapes, almost like a kaleidoscope. Now, I know from my ayahuasca trips that those things can turn into things. And as you separate that all, maybe there's something there. So I feel like I at least got to that point where there's something happening there, but my brain's telling me that that could very possibly just be my mind tripping, right? Not necessarily is it happening out there, maybe it's happening in here.
Jay's hesitation to attribute what he saw to an external phenomenon is understandable given the hallucinogen component to the experiment.
Now, all of this is kind of geared around individual perception. So how do you prove any of it?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, consider this. I mean, we have a court of law, right? That derives on evidence. And much of the evidence is human witnesses, human drawings, human recollections. And in that space, it's fair to say that human recollections are not very good, right? Which is why one witness is oftentimes not enough. And so the thing that I consider is, well, how many witnesses is enough to say that this thing is true or not true? And we're up to about 3,000 subjects who have now seen the code. Is that enough? And my perspective is well, that's enough for me to move on to other levels of experimentation.
When Jay was in the Faraday cage, he brought up a lot of the counter-arguments that Danny and Carter face when presenting the code of reality to others.
So this is a pretty weird experience. I'm staring at a piece of paper against the wall, seeing if I'm going to hallucinate something. Theoretically, isn't it just a reflection of a light being shone in my eyes?
What is causing people to see the code? Is it just a hallucination? Is it just a phenomenon of reflected light? Is it the power of suggestion? It's questions like these that make me wonder, if this is a real phenomenon, how can it be proven?
The truthful answer to your question is one that almost sounds defensive, but I don't mean it defensively. I am actually not trying to convince anyone of anything. I'm making information available. So I'm interested in what in fact is true, because I am of the mind that this is true. After a very long process with it, I'm making it available for others to know that. Whether people accept it or think it's plausible, that's actually not of my concern. The issue is to bring it into something that is something that we can do something together with as a civilization. That would require to put it through the ringer of science. It needs to go through the stage. I'm sure you noticed, I like to quote Terence McKenna quite a bit. He famously said, if it's real, it can take the pressure. That's my response. If it's real, it can take the pressure.
Being able to see the source code of our reality is certainly an intriguing idea. But without definitive proof that what Danny and others are seeing is some sort of source code, I'm left with more questions than answers. Even if the entire phenomenon can be attributed solely to the DMT, it is interesting that a chemical which occurs naturally in humans is causing so many people to have similar otherworldly experiences. At the very least, that aspect should be researched further. Even if it doesn't answer the question, why are we here, it could potentially provide greater insight into what it means to be human. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, check out some of my other videos which cover a wide variety of subjects. If you want to keep up with what I'm working on, head over to my website and sign up for my newsletter.